one of the guys who was a part of the Nazi regime. He came over and he ended up training a bunch of marketing guys, and they use a bunch of that for advertising.
Yeah, wow. Who's building golden statues to themselves. All right. Who's trying to win everybody and their mother over psychologically. All right. For example, UFC in the White House lawn.
We're like Hispanic people, Mexican people are more leaning to somebody who is giving them a warm plate of food and shelter than somebody who's telling them like, hey, I'm gonna fight for you, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Like we gotta step up and we gotta, you know, somebody who is giving them a little bit of cope.
So one of the Proverbs that I want to encourage you guys with is Proverbs 28:1. And this is what it reads. It says, the wicked man flees, though no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. You know, tell me what that tells you. What does that tell you? We can kick it off with that conversation. Because what I did is I texted you guys earlier and I said, hey, today's discussion is going to be about propaganda. Mm-hmm. No, what is it?
Yeah.
Right. So to me, it, you know, and reading that Proverbs, it says that this is our time to stand up because there's a lot of propaganda going on.
Yeah.
Right. It's like absolutely. we got to hear the we got to hear the calling. We got to heed the calling. Right. So we said that we're in a war of confusion. Mm. Right. So again, what does it mean to you when you hear that proverb?
Whether you're getting like a pushover by something else, like you're not necessarily, you know, where it's coming from, but you're taking action or you're doing something, but you're not necessarily knowing why, you know, which is kind of like what you're saying, it aligns to propaganda.
Yeah.
So where you're getting flooded with data information that you're not requesting, but it's getting delivered to you, so that is pushing your steering wheel in certain directions without you wanting to do it or looking to do it.
Yes. Very good. Very good. Well, to go ahead and expand on what you just said a little bit, propaganda is someone trying to go ahead and get a message to you, but you not realizing what's necessarily taking place, perhaps, because as humans that we are, we take on a lot of information, right? And we almost have to form an opinion, like almost in seconds, whether we like something or not. And one of the gifts that's given to us is being able to go ahead and process, you know, information. And a lot has happened here in recent days. One of them that comes to mind is the Ken Paxton getting the nomination from the Republican Party for the Senate seat, and we had touched base on that a little bit last time we spoke, and also the propaganda from both sides, right? And again, you know, looking for that vote, for that for the ability to go ahead or the desire to stay in office, obviously stay in power. I want to call it that. It's power. And it's funny. Someone brought up this at the gym, and I felt it so appropriate, and I wanted to bring it up. There's a thing called perceived power, right? Where you actually people think that you have the power because of maybe perhaps you know the influence that you have, right? And then there's positions of power, right, where people are responsible, and we elect them to these places to do that. And I think we forget about where real power lies, and that is on the individual that is being ruled.
Yeah, a good example is not the previous president of Mexico, but the one before.
Yes.
He had perceived power because he was a president of a nation, but he had no real power.
No real
because
power.
he was a group of individuals behind doors, making those decisions.
And I guess that's where I want to take the conversation is breaking it down for the viewers, because we have we as human beings, we're programmed to be able to go ahead and follow the rules, whatever the rules are of wherever we live, right? And not to go ahead and go against the status quo. Conform is the word that comes to mind. Conform.
We're taught to conform.
Yes, taught to conform. And what happens is we kind of lose our identity in that process if we're not mindful. And especially right now, there's a lot of propaganda that can really go ahead and warp your mind in a way that is not healthy for a community. You know, I mean, it's good for people to have opinions, but at the end of the day, can we sit down and have a meal together? Or is it because you have a different opinion, or perhaps you want to go ahead and, believe in a certain politician and believe his way is the right way and only way? And anything that you say that goes against that belief, you're going to take it as a direct attack on you. And what happens in the brain is, whether it's through, childhood indoctrination, right? Certain family viewpoints that aren't necessarily the best, right? Or the environment, it all shapes you, and you gravitate to something, and whatever that something says, that's what you're going to.
Will you consider like even a family where there is multi-generational doctors, let's say, that grandson who is at the end of the line at that moment, he's getting a heavy propaganda on becoming a doctor?
Yes.
So it's similar to what you're saying, right? It's the environment, and it's the common denominator at home, and not at home, but like on the daily on a daily life.
No, that's more like being shaped because of
That's
your
environmental.
environment.
That's like peer pressure,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
necessarily propaganda.
Propaganda. I'm going to get down to the meat of it, so it makes more sense here in a bit. I'm just laying the groundwork.
Yeah.
So the idea of propaganda is that it's everywhere, especially during election season, right? And what happens is we are forced to take sides. It seems like we're being forced to take sides, and that's the part that I want to talk about. What exactly are we taking sides? With. Because what happens is like right now, it's been all over the news that Republican Party in Texas is corrupt. Well, we've known that. At least I hope that we've known that, because it's in the news all the time, or at least in social media. Okay, so the fact that it's corrupt and it's been traditionally red, so now we've been given the perfect reason to go ahead and vote blue. All right? Because what's happening is people got disenfranchised with Donald Trump, and there's some polls out there. They're saying that the people who were traditionally voting red were now basically just either not voting, voting blue, right? So not voting or voting blue. So so I guess what I'm saying is, so what happens if Texas goes blue? Just in general, right? In general, I mean, what is so diabolical about it if it goes blue, right? And so we're having the conversation about how they, meaning the same people, I think, right? So you guys chime in here, all right? You got people in the red, you got people in the blue, and they're saying we're better for the country, and these guys saying no, we're better for the country, right? And you got people right in the middle that traditionally, for example, Hispanic families, traditionally they vote blue and they don't even know why, right? And so they don't know why, because if you are Hispanic, it's like I met somebody yesterday at the gym. He's like, "Hey man, you're Mexican. You should be Catholic." He said it, like just jokingly, right? Because he's Italian. It's like, "Oh, I'm Italian. I'm a Catholic."
Right.
And I'm like, well, it's like, you're Catholic too, right? I was like, no, I don't identify as Catholic.
Right.
But no, it was a great conversation. Good guy. But again, propaganda is basically just trying to hit you from different directions whether it's in the news, social media, because that's what causes us to have the conversations of the day, right? What did you read? What did you hear about? It all depends also how far you keep your social circle. Do you just stay at home all day? Do you go out and work? Do you go out and socialize? And what are you hearing? Whenever someone wants to go ahead and cause harm to the other side, they do that through different avenues, but they keep they keep their main focus, their main target as hey, we're here, but they attacked you. I hope I'm making sense. They and if I'm not, tell me. They attack in different ways, and what you have is you have the voter, and they're just totally confused. Maybe I am not giving a lot of credit to the voter. Maybe that's what is happening, but I guess we got to talk about it.
Okay.
I'm still not.
No.
Yeah.
I understand where you're.
Still not sparking anything that.
No.
Like,
I'm
You're
cranked
reading?
up over here.
Okay.
So I want to address the first question, which is the verse where it talks about the boldness of the lion.
Yes.
And what that means to me. First, my question is, why is the lion bold? And I believe that the lion is bold because he knows the truth. He knows his own identity, and he's not swayed by anything else that's going on. The lion is the king of the jungle, and he doesn't answer to anybody other than his father, the higher power.
Amen.
And so as long as he knows the truth, and he knows the direction he needs to go, and he doesn't get entangled into unnecessary arguments, he just moves forward with what the truth is. In the land of liars, the truth is taken as a declaration of war. So anytime that you bring up the absolute truth, it's met with opposition.
Yes.
And the way that I define propaganda is anytime somebody tells me what to think or how to think, that's propaganda. Okay. So you can feed me facts, you can feed me your opinion. And if you're telling me your opinion, that's fine. I'm happy to listen to your opinion. But as soon as you start telling me what my opinion should be, well, that's propaganda.
Very good.
Across the board. And so I see you bringing up the whole, in this political climate, the way that I look at all of that is that anytime we're falling into a narrative where we're having the conversation that they want us to have about division, we're having the wrong conversation. Because we're already falling into the propaganda of having the discussions they want us to have. It's a waste of time.
Yes.
You want to sit there and say that one party, color, this or that is corrupt. The whole situation is corrupt because it's built off of fear and control. And anytime that's the conversation, then it's the wrong conversation because it's not about the truth. It's about shaping the narrative, about controlling the conversation so that you're busy over there talking about something that doesn't actually matter because it's keeping you busy talking about something that's not going to change anything. So I know that I don't want that in no way changes the fact that these conversations aren't important. But if you don't come at it from a perspective, let me put it this way. Anytime you're in a battle and you're being attacked from the enemy, you just described it. They come at you from all these different angles.
Yes.
Okay. You think you're getting hit from a bunch of different places. But if you don't step up and step back and pull away, instead of stepping into the middle, getting hit from everywhere, you can't see where they're actually coming from. And so if you don't start from a rooted place of truth, a firm foundation, then you think you're having a good argument. Well, there's lots of places in the Bible where it talks about not having an argument with a fool. And if they can just bait you into a conversation that is a losing argument, no matter what the conversation is, then we're wasting our time. Now, I don't mean to say that in a way that says that some of these discussions aren't good to have, because they are. They affect everyday life. They affect people. But if you're not coming at it from a place of understanding that you're battling an enemy that is trying to divert you from the truth initially, then yes, you're losing your identity. You're just getting into a fight that you're not going to win. You're not establishing truth. You're going to get lost in the argument. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's where I come from.
No, I love it. The anything to add to that?
Well, I think for me, propaganda is not as direct. Like that's my opinion, right? You say whenever somebody's telling you what to do,
What
how
to
to
think?
do it, yeah, what to think. To me, it's a little bit more manipulative. Like somebody's doing it under,
Oh, it gets very underhanded.
like
You're absolutely right.
like I like something like changing the name of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
Mhm.
Those changes don't have any impact as like it's a strategic marketing or strategic uh, trading business between the two countries. It
Mhm.
is just to make a point. And I remember there used to be a something called Project Mockingbird,
Mhm.
and that they're not telling you directly, but it's a bunch of a systematic process. So you get the information in
Yeah,
a way. So you
it's
take decisions thinking that you're doing it yourself.
yeah.
But that's to me is more like,
It,
uh,
so
like
it's the inception concept.
yeah,
Okay, so it's changing just a few things incrementally along the way, very slowly, so that you think that it was your idea to think that way.
yeah,
Okay, but even in that, you have to check your own mind
and that's where a lot of
and
people
see
fails.
how did I get to. So whenever your question just a minute ago about why would they start propagating the narrative that the Republican Party is so corrupt, so now voting blue is actually a better idea. Okay, anytime something gets fed out there, you have to ask why. Why is that the spin that you're trying to feed me to consider? Because you're trying to get me to come to a conclusion that you want me to have this thought process so that I think that it's my idea. And to your manipulation
Yeah,
concept, it's all the same thing. All of that is propaganda. So, I mean, you could even say that good marketing is propaganda in a lot of ways. Um, I, I listened to something not too long ago about one of the guys who was a part of the Nazi regime. He came over and he ended up training a bunch of marketing guys, and they use a bunch of that for advertising.
yeah.
Wow.
I mean that's where a bunch of our
So,
media
yeah,
concepts came from to shift the narrative to just create the American concept about what it is to be how we are.
yeah.
So
We use it.
it's all a part of the same thing.
We use it propaganda. That's what a lot of people probably will think. Like going back to the Nazi times,
Mhm.
Yeah.
because the way it was handled, it was not like they were knocking on doors and getting people out of their homes to fight for them. It's like, hey, they walk in and voluntarily join. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, I mean, you also kind of pointed this out. Our human minds operate a certain way. If you constantly tell somebody a certain line of questioning or a certain line of concept over and over and over again, and they see it how many times during a day, every day, for how long, sooner or later it becomes the norm. And so, like simple advertising on TV back in the day, everything on our phones now that crops up, it's just shoved into us. And if we don't filter that in some way,
So the I like where this is going. There's regimes in the past have used propaganda to obviously overthrow a government, to come into power, to go ahead and totally annihilate a population. So it's a very, 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 very powerful tool. So now that we have a platform, the idea that we can go ahead and talk about this openly, freely, thank God that we're American citizens, so we
yeah.
can do that, right? Because that's in our Constitution. It says that we can go ahead and have freedom of speech.
where you can still get canceled.
Oh, of course, you can get canceled, but I can still talk to my neighbor, still talk to my wife,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? And obviously there's a huge battle going on freedom of speech, but right now we live in Blanco County, and just for the viewers that might be seeing us from far away, we are smack in the middle between San Antonio and Austin. So off of 281. Matter of fact, 281 is right out the door right here. So when we hear about propaganda, right? we and we hear about freedom of speech. Nobody can stop me from taking my Bible and talking about, hey, I want to preach over there at the Lowe's store, the Piggly Wiggly. What used to be the Piggly Wiggly, right? So we can do that, right? When we have a system of elections that we totally disagree with the people who are being presented in front of us, because that's the only thing that's available, so they say. We have to go ahead and choose one, right? And if we want to go ahead and execute our right to vote and elect and be part of this great system that has been established for us to thrive in, right? So what happens is when regimes come in, I'm not going to say, am I saying it right? Am I pronouncing it right? Regime?
Regime.
Regime?
Regime.
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 Regime. I also have an accent. English is my second language. And so this regime, fucking Jim again. So the whole idea that when you have an authoritarian regime established, loyalty is of utmost important. So how do you do that? How do you determine loyalty? Let's say, for example, we're sitting right here. And we're like, hey, we're going to go ahead and create this network. And this network's it's got to be loyal to us, right? How do we go ahead and trap them? Or how do we go ahead and sing, or cater to them to go get them fired up, right? That's what happened to Trumpsters. That's what came out of the MAGA movement. You tell them everything they want to hear, all right? So you build loyalty because, hey, guess what? The guy in top, he's got your back. All right. So the second thing that happens is you kill all empathy as it relates to your enemy. You identify a target. You say, that is our enemy. All right. And you say, hey, you know what? It's the Democrats. Fuck them all.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I said I wasn't going to curse. But you do say that. You say you identify an enemy. You say, oh, that's the enemy. So you and then what happens is people who are perhaps easily influenced, for lack of better words, because again, you hear what they have to say. There's no fact checking, and then you hear all the promises that are being made, but nothing's ever delivered. But hey, that's who I roll with, So I go back to Mexicans, Hispanics, Latinos, however you want to identify my peeps here in Texas. And traditionally, we'll go ahead and vote blue because that's what my dad did, or that's what my mom did. And that's, we just go down. And if you're blue, it doesn't matter what character if for some reason you are of shitty character, but you're in the blue area, I'm going to go ahead and vote for you because you're blue.
Is it just off of tradition, or was there a reason?
No, I think it's good propaganda on that matter. But also they try to counter that because Trump had a small group of Latinos voting for him.
Yes.
And they started a whole movement, Latinos for Trump. And it was not as big as they made him seem.
Yeah.
So, but it's usually like it's a cultural thing. You go with the ones that are like a pacifist. They're not so aggressive, and it's more, people that try to make you feel under their wing, like we got you.
Yeah.
I guess a cultural thing is that we're like Hispanic people or Mexican people are more leaning to somebody who is giving them a warm plate of food and shelter than somebody who's telling them like, hey, I'm gonna fight for you, like we gotta step up and we gotta, somebody who is giving them a little bit of cope.
So is there, okay, so I'm hearing the side of like they're looking for somebody that's giving them an opportunity or help, but also I think like you said, there was a group that Latinos for Trump, and then they made it seem bigger than it. I think that sometimes people see a movement and they think that it's growing. It's given the impression that it's growing, and they're like, "Oh, this is something." People want to jump on a bandwagon that's moving. They want to be on the winning team.
Yeah.
So whatever they think the surge is, or the whatever so I see people that gravitate towards a movement. Whatever the new movement is, they just want to jump on whatever that is because they think that it's the new thing or the next big thing or something like that. So where do you see people fall? Is it they're falling on old tradition, where this worked before, or is it that they're jumping more towards like this is the new thing, so this is what I need to be a part of?
I think on the old tradition, and a big factor too is the TV, because a lot of Hispanic or Spanish speaking television, like Telemundo and Univision, all those are on the blue side.
Okay,
So
that's propaganda.
exactly.
Big
It's
time.
just
So,
they go off of what they're fed.
And it's a big
Yes.
tradition in a Hispanic household. Be mindful that usually there is a big group of people in a household, compared to other ethnicities.
Yes.
A Hispanic household has like maybe twice as much people, right? So
Yes.
it's a pretty big tradition. You're getting dinner all together, talking, and then just watching TV. Or the other ones will watch the newsletter, or the news and the news channel, whatever is going on at that time.
Yeah.
But that is a lot of
I think it's
place.
shifting. I think it's shifting. A lot of I don't hear the telenovelas as much as I used to. Telenovelas used to be the Spanish version of.
But even on those back in the days, it was still propaganda.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
From either the left or the right, it was there.
But yeah, no, I remember visiting my mother back in the day in the Valley, and hearing Trump in the background, like how they have the voiceovers. And I think I don't know who it was. I think it was Jeb Bush at the time. So, way back when they were debating or something happened, they gave Jeb Bush a really soft voice. But when Trump spoke, it was like very harsh.
Yeah.
It's like almost annoying, as like they chose that type of voiceover. And I'm by no means a fan of Trump, but I'm just saying that's what I saw.
Yeah.
And so I want to go ahead and dig deeper now into what exactly is taking place. You said something very powerful last time we spoke, and I'm not sure if you know that you said it, but I'm going to remind you.
Okay.
You said, whoever can come in and join both the black, white, and the browns, can go ahead and come in swinging and really make an impact. And I'm really hoping that this is something that we can do here. Obviously we don't have a black person here on our show right now, but I'm kind of black in heart. Grew up in the East Coast with brothers and sisters. So the idea that we can go ahead and have an honest conversation without yelling at each other, or losing respect for one another, and having decent dialogue. I think that's what's missing from the conversation. I said something that I hope to coin one day. What's missing from the conversation is a conversation, right? And so the idea that we can go ahead and talk, and we're right smack in the middle, man. We're in Texas, right? This right here in the Hill Country, again for the viewers, this is a traditional red area. So for us to be even talking about this and to me it's bold. I believe that now that I've discussed how traditionally Latinos vote blue, now I'm going to tell you that traditional country folks vote red. Okay. And for that same reason. And that's what I want to touch on, because yes, we know the system is screwed up and we have bad guys on both sides, but I really hope that I have a glimpse of hope that there are some good people still there doing some good work. Right. And one thing that worked, and I've seen it work, is when you do, obviously, because you have to register, right? I'm going to register as this, but you get to choose wherever you want to. So you might go ahead and vote red here, but vote blue here, because you're voting on character, right? Not the Republican Party or the Democrat Party. And so I want to be the platform that empowers people through conversation, through knowledge sharing. Because what happens is, psychologically, people will go ahead and feel their brain is programmed, and they feel like they will take it personal. They feel like they're being attacked. And that's why you see these rallies where you have, they have a gate and you have people carrying Trump flags, and you got people just saying, hey, I hate Trump. And there's like, almost like if it wasn't the cops in between, they'd go ahead and kill each other, that's not what why are you doing this? Do you really think that the person on the other side, that they have the ability to go ahead and make your life better by hating on them?
I think it's like we see it on football teams and sports teams,
Okay.
right?
All right.
And a lot of times, that's how I associate it when I see
Yeah.
those rallies.
Yeah.
But in the back of my head is those people are not really thinking that this is not a game. It
Yeah.
it is for the country. It's for everybody.
Yes.
Everybody's in the same team.
Yes.
And as far as on this side of the borders here,
Yes.
so it's I think the cultural aspect of having two teams that you're always gonna go against each other.
Well, and that's sort of the point. You asked the question earlier, you know, how do you secure loyalty? Well, loyalty is only tested through conflict. And then the question is, what's the conflict over? Where do we find middle ground at the end of the day? And the fact is that if forget my phone. So stupid.
Sure.
If it, like at a football game or at a political rally or anything else like that, I mean, we can have conflict, we can disagree, but ultimately, are we really trying to hurt each other, or are we trying to get to an understanding? I mean, if at the end of the day, in the conflict, you're just trying to get one over on me, well, then how is there loyalty? I want to see you win just as much as I want to win, but I don't want to win at the cost of you losing. If that's my take, then I'm not really loyal, am I? So if we're not all standing under the same flag, then we're not on the same team. And that's where I think that we fall into the trap of the narrative of having these conversations where it's like, you're on that team, I'm on this team. No, we're all Americans. That's what we should be focusing on. We're so infighting about what we're getting because I'm this kind of American and you're that kind of American. How does that work?
Yeah.
If we're not trying to rise the tide for all boats to float higher, then what's the point?
Yeah.
See, I think in politics right now, they just want to keep us busy fighting over the scraps to where they can keep us at this level of control so that we're not really requiring accountability and for things to actually change and rise up. That's where I see it.
No, that's precisely why we're having this conversation,
Yeah.
because we want to get people to recognize that when they go ahead and say the word trans, indoctrinating our kids, are they doing it? Yeah, I think but it is a concerted effort. I'm not saying that everybody who that trans should be targets, but they chose the trans. The idea of a movement to target a certain population, and that's them. They're being targeted, and that's why they get a lot of heat from people who I'm like, they're pointing to them saying they're the enemy, because they want to indoctrinate. They want to make my kid gay. I'm not here defending that whatsoever. I'm just using that as an example that hello, Mexicans are the target. They're not saying that only the illegals who commit a crime, who are criminals, who are doing bad things, no, they're saying immigrants, or they're illegals, it's just the whole connotation is anybody with brown skin is now somewhat, just I can tell you from a psychological perspective, there is no separating, because when you have empathy, I'm not going to go ahead and allow you to demoralize my fellow man.
Yeah, but here, and the whole point, and I think this is the reason why you're bringing this up. The fact of the matter is, that's just low IQ thinking.
Exactly.
And what we want to try to do here is to raise the collective IQ.
Yes.
Like the fact that they can use these different terms, and then there's this collective thinking that put all of these things together to now this is an enemy, this is an enemy, this is an enemy. You're fighting too many battles on too many fronts, and you're being low IQ about your disgruntledness or whatever. The fact of the matter is that you're being defeated by the concept that there's so many problems that it can't get fixed. Well, when you make it about so many problems, you're not focusing on the real problem. And so, creating the conversation in order to get to what the actual truth of the problem really is, and diverting away from this low IQ thinking that has people collectively arguing about nonsense when it comes down to it is the whole point.
I see one word and I wrote it down because I don't want it to get away from me, and that's power.
Mm.
You know, and that's the reason. At the end of the day, I'm going to go ahead. Let's say that you know, this was a military base that I just arrived, or a prison or something like that. You know, a small town, and you get there, and I want to go ahead and exert some form of authority. You know, and because I have ambitions, you know, I want to go ahead and own the town, or I want to go ahead and be in a position to go ahead and give orders and allow my family to thrive, but not necessarily giving a fuck about anybody else, you know, because I'm going to go ahead and piss on everyone. And it's all about me attitude. It's never as obvious as I just described.
Mhm.
You know, it's always like, let me create some division here. Hey, the blacks hang over here, the whites hang over here, the Chinese, the Koreans. I'm going to go ahead and say that, hey, the Koreans, you know what? They're talking shit about the blacks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they get the infighting over here, right?
Yeah.
Got them infighting. Okay, so I got that little section taken care of real quick. And okay, now the whites, well, guess what? You know, for some reason, you know, they seem to go ahead and they run the chow line, you know, and it's pretty damn good the way they run everything. Nobody's ever complained, but guess what? I'm going to complain, right? I'm going to create some problems for them. I'm going to organize some people and say, hey, the fucking chow line sucks ass, you know, why are you always serving this at this time? We want to change the time, the order. You see, so we have to go ahead and help people recognize that in propaganda, you don't have to do what I just described. You can go ahead and do it through the means of the air. And
it's funny because you mentioned a context in prison, right? In jail or
prison or community.
So, but yeah, you see that all with HOAs. You see that with corporations.
Yes.
Where corporations could not, you know, may not be ethnicity.
Yeah.
But it could be like a group of skills, or you know, the IT guys, or the ones on or CPAs over here.
Oh yeah, don't get me started with the fucking IT guy.
You know, whoever has access to the ledger. Okay.
Yeah, sorry again. No, that's. I think we're getting somewhere, peeps. Okay, so again, propaganda, okay, is the idea that someone wants power, right? So you have to ask yourself, who wants power in Texas? Who hasn't traditionally had power before? You know, who wants power in Texas that hasn't traditionally had power before? If you still believe that there's two teams at play.
If you still believe.
If you still believe there's two teams at play. Okay. And some people say, yeah, of course there's two teams. You know, we got this one over here. It's like, yeah, you guys may not be fucking talking, but the guys over here are talking. They know what to feed you so you guys can keep at each other. Mm-hmm. You know? That's my take on it. So the idea that Obama here showed up recently, all right, and for before Trump, right, when Biden was in office, everybody was saying, well, it's just Obama, you know, being his earpiece, right? So in Texas, and the reason I'm bringing this up, because it's a hot topic. It's a hot topic. There's a group out of Houston who's had Gina Hinojosa, who's supposed to be the one that's running on the Democrat side to become governor, against Abbott, longtime Republican guy in a wheelchair, who I have no idea how come he's been in power this long, but he sucks as a governor. So of course, you know, so we have a guy that's really sucks, and you have this one, oh, for the people. It's got Obama right here telling her what to say. For the people. For the people. All right? And all of a sudden, you know, Texas loses what, to me, when I moved to Texas, I thought Texas was the last standing castle. I really did. And a lot of people I feel like it was the same. So can you imagine if it went blue? Right? Not to say that I know for sure that it's going to be a horrible thing, but what better strategy to go ahead and say how horrible the red is, right? And then get that base so worked up that they start dropping off like flies, but then they're resurrecting blue, and all of a sudden Texas goes blue. You know, would that be a horrible thing? You know, it's a very good question, I think. You know, but again, it's not going to be an easy fight. It's going to come down to November, right? I believe that we have a very, very strong platform where we're going to be able to go ahead and talk about things just the way we're doing right now. Because what's going to happen is traditionally blacks are going to say, okay, yeah, no, I'm Democrat, right? And the Browns are going to be like, yeah, fuck Trump, he really fucked us up, right? Right. And then you're going to take also the number of people that Trump pissed off, and they're just going to throw them over the top. You always just needed that little one, a little piece to throw them over the top. So again, the idea that this machine is building already, it's building, and I saw in the past how the blue regime came into a state of an established blue regime, and they jumped the establishment. Okay, so you jumped the establishment. So and from what I saw and what I see now of the people who are still there, and we're talking about the state of Delaware, that the state is not any better. Not any better. All right. So so Texas has to go ahead and wake up, and I don't mean stay red. No, but understand what's at play here, and do what we're doing. Talk about it, and there's another point that I also want to go ahead and bring up. And by the way, you're going to hear me talking a lot about conversations at the gym, because it serves as a good.
Because you go often.
Well, it's not. Well, I try to, but that's not the reason why. It's the guys that I meet there are very outspoken. They're just that's the place to go ahead and say, hey, this is the way I feel about this.
Yeah.
And so they give me a lot to think about, and they ask me, it's like, hey, so what are you going to talk about this time?
Yeah.
And one of the guys, his let me see if I remember his name. This is my PTSD. But James is his name.
Okay.
He's a big Trumper.
Okay.
And it was really cool is when I first met him, he was telling me a story. It's like, are you a Trump supporter? And I'm like, I used to be, but not anymore.
Yeah.
He's like, why not? And I told him, it's like, dude, man, I think if he's full of shit just like the other guys. And I said this to him, it's like, it's like, well, he was definitely better than Joe Biden. I'm like, it's like, but then I turn it around on him. It's like, yeah, I know. If you're okay drinking diarrhea or chewing on a turd, which one is it? Trump the turd, still shit, right? Or drink the diarrhea. And I'm like, they still suck. But here's what's cool about it. All right. I believe I've earned his respect just by hanging out and talking to him and just being friendly and talking,
Yeah.
I mean, I think I earned his respect because he invited me to go, to the Buggy Barn and play, what is it? It's a game that they play where let's see how many things you know and
Trivia.
Yeah.
What is the thing that you earn his respect, but it could be, you were having a conversation with him without the two of you,
Yeah.
Just arguing and fighting, and we're going back to the division.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it doesn't turn into like name calling, then you're having a discussion about the issues.
But according to the press and social media, there's no way someone who doesn't feel the same way as a Trumpster can have a conversation.
Right.
Okay.
Well, but you do know that whenever you're having a discussion with somebody, if they start calling you names, well, you do know that that's an indication you've already won the argument. Because as soon as that happens, the only way that they can have an argument with you is to start getting emotional. Well, then they have no discussion points to actually prove their state. So it's like, if you start calling me names, well, then nice talking to you. I'm just going to assume I won the argument because you're not having a conversation.
Yeah, correct.
And I'm not. Time. Yeah. And if somebody's trying to bait you into just an argument for the sake of an argument so that they can win points or feel morally elevated than you, it's going to come to the point where either they're going to break down and start calling you names, which point you won the argument, or they're going to consider what you have to say, respect your position, continue to offer their opinion and points, hopefully educated. And if they're not trying to have an argument, then they're going to consider what you're offering them. Doesn't mean they have to change their position. That's not why you're talking to them. You're talking to them because you value them as a person.
Correct.
not because you're trying to win something.
Correct. And that's the point, because what conservative mind thinking is driven by fear, I feel, and fear of what exactly. And what happens is once you have that conversation, you can clearly see how in tune they are with the decision making. This is his reasoning behind why he supports Trump, or why Massey was ejected from, basically, or how he lost his seat. He's like, you know what? You know how it is, man. You know, if you have a team, you know, and that guy doesn't want to play ball, of course he's going to get rid of him. And I'm like, yeah, that's a very simple way to look at it.
You just want yes men on your team?
Exactly. It's like, you must have missed
all you want?
that point. It's like, or my point where, like, okay, well, let's say this guy, I'm going to go ahead and look at the Republican ticket, but I don't like this guy, but I want to go ahead and vote for this guy over here, even though he's on the other side. That's independent thinking and exercising your right. Yeah. But he's saying, no, if Trump says go, you fucking go. You see? So to me, that's more of like the mentality of the propaganda has gotten so bad. Okay, and the fear that that perhaps is growing in his mind, that if I don't think this way, I'm not American. Okay, or I'm betraying him. You know, because what happens is there was a fella, okay, Jim Jones, right? He was a pastor, and I was reading about him and how he went ahead and got his followers, right? And that's why I opened the conversation about, you know, if I wanted to, right, the people listening all of a sudden start to follow me, and I say, go look left, and they look left, and they say, right, you know, and then before you know it, I have somebody who wants to go ahead and fucking hunt me down because, you know, they feel like God is telling them to, you know, be my friend, right? That's the power of influence. You can go ahead and mold somebody's mind, all right, and we're all susceptible to it, and that's why propaganda is very powerful. Sure. Okay? And this guy started by basically saying, hey, you know what? You guys are mine, and everybody else is our enemy. Before you know it, he grew his congregation to about 900 people. And then you got some people leaving saying, you're fucking nuts. And he's like, no, they're the enemy because they're, you know. And before you know it, he moves them all to a faraway island. And they all drank poison. And they all died.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens is you have somebody who's building golden statues to themselves, all right, who's trying to win everybody and their mother over psychologically, all right, for example, UFC and the White House lawn, right? Yeah, who doesn't like a good fight, sure. Right? But never mind that grocery prices are climbing, right? And gas prices climbing, and housing prices is climbing. But let's have a fucking fight there at the, in the White House lawn, and the propaganda is being used. You know, that's my president. We're gonna go ahead and fucking, you know, fist fight. You know, this good shit, right? You know, because we're men, right? And then they show, it's better than what Biden did. Well, let's see, same White House lawn. In Easter, by the way, because they want to go. They like to mock Christ, right? Yeah. Their opportunity is there's this trans guy, all right, and he's got boobs the size of a woman's breast, and he's got his nipples covered, and he's jumping like this, you know, in the White House lawn,
right?
But of course, I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, no, fuck that, you know, yeah, let's go ahead, propaganda, propaganda. So my point is, you have. If James, my buddy James, would just see that the UFC is like, oh heck yeah, I'm gonna tune in, fucking have a bear party, right? Never mind that you know, we're at war, and we didn't say we were gonna be at war. That was one of the promises. We're not gonna go to war, right? And we chastise the past administration for just leaving all those aircraft and all that weaponry behind, right? And Marines being blasted, soldiers being blasted because of us leaving just the way we did. No accountability whatsoever. But hey, let's go ahead and keep them in power. Let's go ahead and keep the guy in power who I remember when COVID-19 first started. It was Trump. It was Trump, right? And let's go ahead and remember, you know, the J6ers. What happened? He was there. He didn't say anything, you know. And I heard that they're supposed to get some money, and there's a fund or something established for the guys that. You know, I was never for or against what happened because I never had the details. But I do know that propaganda was used to get everybody excited,
Absolutely.
and they even had agents in the crowd saying,
That's a
"Hey,
good example of propaganda.
this way,
It's-
this way."
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was guys saying there, "What the hell are you doing? Why are you fucking up our?" It's like that's not what I signed up to do. But there's like, all that stuff. So yeah, I'm sure you've heard this in the past, right? And this is when I first learned how powerful. We all know about Hitler, right? But and it was easy because to be able to separate the two, right? Because you have, your white German blood, blonde hair, blue eye, perhaps, right? And you had your more, I don't know, distinct, perhaps black hair, more Mediterranean looking Jews, right? So you had difference in perhaps in the race, right? Well, the in one of the African countries, I believe that when I first heard it, because I thought the name was kind of funny, the Houthis and the Tutsis. All right. And I remember when I looked at them, I was like, damn, they both look the same. You can't go ahead and tell them apart. How the fuck you know who the enemy is? Because the Houthis were going to go ahead and take out the Tutsis, and the Tutsis were going to go ahead and take out the Houthis, right? And I mean, I think one of them destroyed the other one. But the guy that did all that created the havoc was somebody behind a microphone. He would go on the radio and say, "Hey, these guys are animals. They're this and that. And if you see one, just grab a machete and fucking take them out." Yeah. So you see the propaganda, and why we're talking about it because, frankly, it's something that we, as a country, are run the risk of having to feeling like we have to choose sides. We always had to, but now it's to the point where it's actually detrimental to your health. Depends on what side you're choosing.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because now it's like why like why are we going that direction? I mean, it's simple conversation, as far fetched as it may seem. Okay, but in Newark, New Jersey, a standing U.S. senator was sprayed in the face with mace. Another one was denied entry to the same facility where they're keeping migrants or immigrants or illegals, whatever you feel like you need to refer them to. But the story that we were sold, where this was going to be detention centers for people who are criminals, aside from just being here, overstaying their visas, green card holders, some, American citizens, because they're like, you're brown, you're going in. And complaining about the treatment, complaining about the conditions, abuse. So a senator says, "Hey, I want to go in there, check it out." And it's like, "No, you can't. You can't." So again, we as Americans, we think that laws protect us. We've been conditioned to think that we need these guys in power to tell us that we're safe because they're watching out for us. There's these laws, right? But yet, I know I'm going to screw it up. There's a saying that says, "Hey, you know what? They came for them, right? And I was okay with it. They came for them, and I was okay with it. And then they fucking came for me, right?" So something to consider. All right, something to consider. And as we go ahead and continue the conversation and dig deeper, we're going to recognize that that's the agenda. The agenda is, how can I stay in power? Through propaganda, so I can do whatever I want, because really, people like James, he would not have a problem with that facility. He would say, "No, it's for illegals." It's like, James, but the people there are not the criminals. It's just people that were just working. They got them at a fucking job site. They were framers, or doing concrete work, and fucking picked them up. But now they're in there. Yeah, but they shouldn't have been here anyway. So we totally sensitized to any type of moral. The word is we have to have empathy, right?
So my question would be, whose responsibility is to fix this problem? And my answer to that question would be, it's ours. And then the question is, well, where do you start? Well, you start with you as an individual. I've probably said this before, but the greatest form of rebellion is personal excellence. If you don't start with yourself and build out from there, then there's no hope in solving any of these problems. So start with the controllables. Every single individual needs to start with the things that they can actually control. And we can actually control a lot more of our individual lives than we think that we actually can. But until we start doing that, we can't conquer these problems.
Very good. That's a very good segue to the next piece of conversation, unless you want to go ahead and have anything
No,
else.
and I was just gonna add, like, also do that personal level, but in the meantime, you can also find people who aligns with your goals or who aligns with your values.
Well, as you do it,
Yeah,
those people are going to start to come together, I believe.
And I think also we're underestimating that force because we're thinking, it's not gonna happen.
Well,
and then it's like a little.
I think
compound
we've
effect.
underestimated that force, but they haven't. Why do you think they do everything that they do?
Yeah.
They know that that's where the true power is, and so they keep us divided so that that power can't rise.
Very good. So we know the power of conversation. We know, and it's funny because it's conversation means you have to be able to talk, right? And the spoken word is truth. Comes from above, the ability to, right? And so you can choose it to do good or you can choose it to do evil,
Sure.
right? So obviously we've chosen it to do good. We're men, we're righteous men, and we want good things to come out of this conversation, right? And the good things is it's let's go ahead and put things aside. Let's put our guns away. All right, that's what I'm saying. Let's put our guns away because it's not time to fight. And what that will do is allow us to think through things here. Because what happened is the ability to think has been taken away. Meaning, it's a God-given ability to be able to help your children and for you to learn how to go ahead and process a problem, deal with it. Okay, and you can deal with it by ignoring it. You can deal with it by addressing it, okay? And you can deal with it by, just talking over someone. Help me out here. Give advice.
Yeah,
right?
something I'd add to that too is we've lost the freedom to change our own minds.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Like your buddy you were talking about, who's like and I don't know the guy, so I don't want to label him too harshly, but he's a always Trumper or whatever.
Yeah, Trump all the way.
And it's like, dude, if you find out new information, feel free to not be so heavy that direction. And we have to give that person grace.
Yes.
That when they change their mind, we don't go, oh, wait a minute, you're a flip-flopper.
Yeah, exactly.
No. Look, if there are so many people that were so convinced that taking the vaccine was a great idea. And if you were an anti-vaxxer, you got labeled.
Yes.
If you thought taking the vax was a great idea, you got labeled. Nobody wanted to change their opinion.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I found out new information. And both sides, oh, you changed your mind.
Yes.
You got to give people on both sides the opportunity to shift their thinking. And if they do, give them grace. I mean, why did it become so difficult to give somebody the opportunity to change their mind? Like, I think some people, they don't want to have the discussion because if they think they changed their position, now they're going to get ostracized just for that.
Exactly.
Well, that's called learning.
Yeah.
That's called just being mature. Hey, I found out new information that's different than what I had before. I have a different perspective on the situation now. Have the freedom to change your own mind.
That's actually part of the conversation that I wanted to have tonight. How to go ahead and help someone through the process of independent thinking. Simply by and this is a perfect example. I said, hey, has it occurred to you? This is also talking to James, that these guys say that they point at each other and say they're the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They point at each other. They're like, it's the Democrats, it's the Republicans, it's the Department of Justice, it's Homeland Security, it's ICE, and it's them, and these are them pointing at them. I was like, have you thought of that for a minute? And again, he was like, I was not being insulting. It was just something to think about. And also, when he does come around, and I know he's going to, right? Not to my way of thinking, but to independent thinking, where you can go ahead and, do some analyzing. One of the greatest gifts God gave us is being able to go ahead and, after an incident, is being able to spend time by ourselves and say, how could I have done this better? Did I do okay? Like an exercise in your head to be able, how did I handle that situation? And thank him for the opportunity. And that moment right there is an opportunity for a human being to grow. And if we don't take advantage of it or show people how,
Right.
I guess that's what I'm doing or that's what we need to do, is show people how, with grace, to
Right.
be able to go ahead, because we all want peace. We all want peace because it's not time for war. There's time for war, right? But it's not time right now. And the idea that people are so quick to go ahead and say, oh, let's just go ahead. They have no clue because this is what got them in trouble in the first place, because they were so easily manipulated into thinking that they have to go ahead and take sides and act a different way, be a certain way. And I can tell you one of the things that this gentleman told me, and the reason why I'm using him is because he asked me, and I told him, hey, maybe you can come in, we can sit down, we can chat with you. And he's like, yeah, he likes to talk. He said to me, now my point escapes me. He sees my PTSD take place. I forgot.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Just roll through it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, any other final thoughts on this before
Well, one thing that was crossing my mind is that, we've traded so much of our freedom for comfort and what we think is security, and we've missed within the American dream. There was this sense of freedom.
Yes.
But within freedom carries a lot of responsibility. You have to maintain your own security, and you're in charge of your own comfort. But to maintain freedom is not a comfortable thing. It requires sacrifice. And we've had so many people that have volunteered for our military, served, and have made the ultimate sacrifice. We just had Memorial Day.
Yep.
And we take that for granted. And so much of this infighting and everything that we do is with no consideration for what we've been given at the level of freedom that we have right now. I think about all those that have served and died who are watching us from above and looking at us and going, what the heck are y'all fighting over?
Yeah. I almost commented that on Facebook.
We died to let y'all live in freedom, and y'all are fighting over the dumbest crap.
Yes. Yes.
And it's really unfortunate. And so I think that we've traded so much of our freedom for what we perceive as security and a sense of freedom that really is not, because most of our decisions are made for us because we're allowed for them to be made for us. And we think that that's a better way.
Well, I think there's a root to this, and that is a form of fear that I'm afraid because I don't know how, or I'm afraid of a certain race, or I'm afraid of losing my identity, or I'm afraid, this was, it just came back to me, this is what he thought of. It's like, I don't want to live next to someone like that. Like someone like who? Someone that's different than him. Perhaps speaks a different language, and he's oil field guy, but was an oil field for the longest time, so, the rough and tough type fella. But I bet you that the guy would melt if somebody who happened to be different than him moved next door and came over and say, hey, you know what? Here's some food.
Yeah.
He'd be like,
yeah, it's out of ignorance.
That's what it is. That's what it is, And
I mean, we think about what, we go back to the American way or the American dream or the land of opportunity or whatever, and we talk about things like life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and things like that. And then I mean, what is that concept? I mean, where did that come from? And the fact of the matter is, go to anywhere in the world. What do people actually want? They want the ability to live, thrive, and provide for their children. Okay, well, that's the American dream. Don't you think that fits everywhere? That is universal. That's just humanity.
There you
Okay?
go. There you go.
So to think that somebody that's a little bit different than you, that came from a different culture than you did, don't have that same core values, why do you think they came here to begin with?
Yeah.
Okay? Maybe they fix their food a little bit different way. Maybe their first language is a different one. They came here for the same opportunity that, your ancestors did too. And now I think that at the end of the day, we all want to stand under the same flag and in unity of that and propagate the freedom that those that died before us gave us the opportunity to have. Now we need to concentrate on our own personal excellence in order to raise the bar so that those that are at the lowest common denominator can rise also. But we can't attack the upper echelons of corruption and disparity and elements what's the word I'm thinking of, entitlement. Because see, I mean, that upper crust, they believe that they're entitled. Okay, so here's the thing. Most of the people that are in power for power. Okay, good people don't search for power because maybe they don't think that they deserve it, or maybe they think that there's something wrong with it. But the whole reason why bad people come into power is because good people are called to power. And unfortunately, if good people don't step into places of power in order to maintain freedom and that integrity, then the only people that rise to power are people that are searching for power for the sake of power.
Yeah, power corrupts. And that's one of the things that I learned a long time ago. And it's so if somebody's not ready for that. I mean, I was listening to Tulsi Gabbard. She was having an interview with Sean Ryan, and he asked her, it's like, how is it, when you come into a job like that, national security advisor, secretary, whatever.
Sure.
It says, oh, they roll out the red carpet. It's like,
sure.
You're the most important person there is in the world. It's
Yeah.
like it's like, whatever you need, they got you. It's like the minute you step down, they don't answer their phone anymore.
Nope. No.
So there's people who are there to make sure the government keeps running, and they're set in their ways, and the process is set up, and someone who goes there, either you become part of it because they're saying it's impossible to change, right? So and you're right, it brings us back to here. Here we can change. We can affect change with people like James, or with their neighbor, with their wife, or brothers, sisters. The whole idea is like you give them a perspective of help them to be able to process this, whether it's because of the lack of perhaps exposure to different cultures, right? Mm-hmm. That sets that fear in of
or exposure to propaganda that other cultures are bad.
Exactly. Yes. And that's what's going on right now, I feel, with the Muslims, and Sharia law and all that. Also, I was in Texas, been in Texas since 2014, and I never heard that was a problem. And all of a sudden, that's like dominating everything. Sharia law this, Sharia law that, and it's just, we should all be scared because of Sharia law, and So again, propaganda, the idea that someone is bad or is my enemy because they are Muslim, and I've heard, but they think that it says that they think that Jesus is this and that, and I'm like, yeah, so what does that mean? Does that mean I have to hate on them? Does that mean that I have to go ahead and rise up and fucking just round them up, right? No. Hey, let me ask you this. This is one of the the questions that perhaps will help put everything in perspective, right? Because obviously we talked about the different groups and what makes us the United States. It's not just white, it's not just black. Even though when Biden was in power, I thought it was just black. I think there was an attack on white men. I really felt bad. I felt bad for white men. Like, fuck, they're getting it bad. Maybe I should have spoken up back then, but it wasn't Mexican, so I didn't say anything. No, I think I might have said something on LinkedIn once. It's like, poor white guys.
We're persecuted, man.
Right? No white privilege here.
No.
What is when you get into the topic, there is people that say like, well, you cannot be racist if you were talking about white people.
Right.
It's like to me, it's like a comment that neglects itself.
Right.
But I would just want to give my opinion on what T would say. When you have people, and I talk to even the Hispanics, they're first generation here or second generation, and when you start telling them like, what are you want to achieve? You just want to do the American dream and provide for your family, or you're gonna go beyond that and exceed on that. And one title that I think a lot of the blue colors that are out there is power. Like it's like a negative connotation or a title.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a guy that was doing work for me, and we were talking, and we suddenly start calling it greatness instead of power.
Okay.
Like, wouldn't be greatness if you get a bigger house for your family, if you get a newer vehicle that you can rely on, and you can volunteer for your community where you live. You can put together people so that way you can fix. He was complaining about some trees overgrowing on some power lines and something like that, and they were losing power when it was storms. And I told him like it wouldn't be greatness to have that ability of having the authorities, cities, whatever, do stuff for you.
Right.
And just by changing the name from greatness to power, like he didn't spoke of it in a negative way than other people have.
Yeah, and that's a very interesting concept, because I think that you talk about propaganda, we talk about how we've been manipulated to think about things a certain way. Achievement and greatness has been, put in a negative light. At the end of the day, money's not bad. The love of money is what the Bible talks about being a negative thing, but money is just leverage.
Yes.
And if you build a business that creates opportunity for the people that work there, and then that money gives you leverage to then be able to influence your community in a positive way, now you can be sponsoring sports teams and helping with, cutting trees and power lines and everything else like that. That's true leverage, power, greatness, achievement. Those things have been put in such negative connotation that the lower classes, first off, aren't sure if they're achievable because they haven't seen anybody else do it in a good way. And they've been disparaged from even wanting to approach it because it's been talked about in a negative thing. And that's a part of the narrative and conversation that I would love to see shift and change. Look, we all need to rise up, because that's how we actually affect society and culture in the right way. A guy like that, if he could grab the concept that, if I create a business that employs people, and then I can use some of my proceeds to then sponsor opportunities for greatness in my community, dude, that's the true American dream right there. That's when things start to rise up. Because how many people does it take? Within a family, it only takes one.
Yep.
It only takes one. And it doesn't take much, but if that concept starts to pick up, and then those ones combine and then grow, that's where we really get to see great change.
And it's the same thing. I had mentioned, and just to keep conversation with people of big names, Elon Musk and Bill Gates and people that are changed the way we live, and it's nothing but negative. Well, most of the time, it's nothing but negative comments like, "Oh yeah, they were born in they were raised with a silver spoon. And their ancestors, profit from slavery and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but you cannot see the, like, I'm not telling you to put an altar to these people. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
look at what, like Elon Musk, why he stepped out of the office when he had the Dodge uh, department to try to find the deficiencies and everything. You know, we all know he got kicked out because he was looking into so many rooms.
Yeah.
So, but nobody's talking about it.
Yeah.
And he didn't care at that moment.
Yeah, I don't want this to get away from us. The cultural belief, and it's basically it's ingrained in the Hispanic community, whether it's through culture, like say for example, some of the things that I saw growing up was the Mexican guy with a hat with a rebozo, he was drunk and leaning next to a cactus. That was Mexicans. That's what we do. Or we were not ambitious. We were working class, and all of a sudden, thinking differently and saying, hey, I actually do want to learn, and I want to take advantage of learning. Oh, wait a minute, it can actually, I can actually keep on with my peers. Oh, actually, I can excel past my peers, not for any other reason, but because it gives me more responsibility. But it also gives me an opportunity to go ahead and lead. Oh, develop my leadership skills. So those are things that you said were important for everyone, not just the Hispanic community, but for everyone. And whether it's the blacks or middle class whites, we can do this. We can achieve, individuals can achieve great things, and it's not through physical agility only. It's the ability to go ahead and process, to problem solve, to commit to being disciplined, to setting goals, to achieving, and those are the things that I believe, that ability to think that way, and it gives you an open field. I believe that it's so easy to do here. I think what's missing right now is motivation. What is the motivation to go ahead and achieve? You can only, from my perspective, where I'm at right now in my life, I'm 54 years old, right? The way I see this is the opportunity to go ahead, and it's a culmination of everything that I've done in the past, sitting right here and saying, how can I go ahead and give back? And one of the things that I can tell you I hope you guys see it, is the ability to be able to share what I've learned from Scripture, and applying it to everyday life. We scriptures. It's in Scripture. It's the parable of the talents.
Yep, that's a really good one.
Yeah, and just for an audience to go ahead and be familiar with the talents, I'll go ahead and try to explain it to me in my I'll try to explain it in a civilian way, and that is that the story goes like this: that there was an owner who was going to go away, and he called his servants, and he gave each one of them a talent. And he says, put it to work, and he gave some he gave more talents than the others, than others. And the story goes is the one that had that one little talent, he was afraid of his master. He's like, oh, he knows he's harsh, so I don't want to lose it, so I'm going to bury it. So when he comes back, here it is, master. And master got pissed at him. It's like, man, should have at least put it in the bank so to get some interest. And what did you do that you had two talents? You can speak and you can go ahead and sing. What did you do? I don't know why I spoke and sang, and I also went ahead and created this and created that. Here's your two talents plus another two. It's like, great job. Story goes on and on. Everybody basically took what they had and they put it to work. And he says the kingdom of God is like this. It says the ones who have little, that is going to be taken away. And the ones who have a lot, it's going to increase. And I believe that God has given us gifts to share with the world. And I believe those, I'm learning every day. So my gifts are increasing. And it's my job to go out and help others with those gifts. Because our job is to share with others the kingdom, right? The kingdom to come. And the Bible speaks about on earth as it is in heaven. So that means we're supposed to be practicing things as God wants them to be, right? The way He intended it to be before the world was corrupted. So I think we covered a lot of ground today. We've covered the idea that it's not a bad thing to go ahead and put your talents to work. Right?
Oh, it's required.
We have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not necessarily going after a position of power, but having a platform is very powerful. People hang on your every word, on your every move, you know. And the idea is yes, we'd like to have a following of viewers, but we want to create independent thinkers.
Yeah, somebody that you can have a dialogue, or you can just have a conversation, like James.
Yes.
Have a different. I was not gonna. Well, yeah, a different opinion, but you can still have a decent conversation.
Yeah.
You can have a connection. That's at a personal level.
And no fairness, James is not here to defend himself. Perhaps I said one or two words and maybe, we're not part of the conversation, but it is what it is. But the idea here is that we bring people to the table.